Hey guys, good morning. It's very early here in Sweet TNT, but I wanted to get up and do this outdoors so you guys could get that feel for Green Days by the River. I'm probably like the last local YouTuber to review this movie, but I've been so busy. I've been trying to catch up on all the films that I haven't gotten a chance to do recently, and this was one of them. So Green Days by the River is set in about, I think it's 1952 Trinidad, and it tells the story of a young African boy named Shelly, who his dad falls ill and he's forced to find work. And he does so with a local rich landowner whose daughter he actually has a crush on. And it's a coming of age story of this young man, and as he starts to learn the difference between, innocent love and responsibilities of life. So Green Days by the River is a book that here in local Trinidad, it's something most of us had to read in secondary school. So we're all a bit familiar with it. I think I did it. It's one of those books I don't remember very well because I had my favorites, and this one wasn't one of them. No fault of the book, it's a great book written by Michael Anthony, but it was high school and I don't really remember it that well. But the movie is what everybody's interested in, so let's get into that. First of all, the positive stuff. I really enjoyed the look of this film. It's definitely, there's a lot of love visually for this film. Not just the era that it's set in, because you can point out certain places if you've been to Trinidad that you would recognize, and that's always something enjoyable to do with our local films. But visually, this movie is quite beautiful to look at. It tells its own story in that way. And some of my favorite scenes were actually scenes that were devoid of any dialogue, that just focused on the visuals of this film. There's this beautiful scene set to this music where they are picking cocoa, which you use for chocolate, and crushing the cocoa and stuff. And it's my favorite scene in the movie actually, and there's no dialogue in that scene. It's all set to this beautiful haunting score that I quite enjoyed. Story-wise, the story is engaging. It's like I said, it's a coming of age story of this young man, and he's played by actor, I'm gonna be looking at my notes, forgive me, it's kind of early. Sudai Tafari plays Shelly, known as Shell as well. And while he does struggle in the role, he's a young actor. This is one of his first roles, I think. And I think he does well because Shelly is this shy, sweet, innocent character, and his nervousness actually added to that. I think it was a plus. It worked well, at least in the beginning of the movie, but we'll get to that. It worked well. Another actor, I think, he stole every scene he was in, was Anand Lakaran as Mr. Gadari. He was the most natural in this movie, but he's an accomplished actor here. And he and Mr. Che Rodriguez as Pa Lamy, who played that's Shelly's dad, they were the ones that stood out for me. They were the ones who did the best with their dialogue. They were the ones who came across most naturally. And they were the ones who stole the scenes they were in. They stood out for me, and I really enjoyed watching them perform. But like I said, the story itself, it's pretty decent. It's a story where we've seen it before, but it's very beautifully handled in the sense that we do get to see Shelly go through those stages of a young boy and young love, and we all know what that feels like, your first crush and so forth, to having these responsibilities forced upon him with his dad getting ill and him having to work, and he actually embraces it. You can see that he likes the idea of being a man, but he doesn't quite know what that entails, and he makes some decisions that basically forces him to grow up very quickly, because this is a story of, I think, learning the difference between, I guess, sacrifice. It's a story of sacrifice. It's understanding that we have to at some point leave childhood things behind, and I think it's handled well enough here. That said, this movie, where this movie struggles the most is in its choices of not so much cinematography, but the the choices of the camera angles, the shot compositions. There are times when, for instance, one scene in particular took place at, let's say, like a little local party. And it's a scene where the boys are having a drink at the bar. And the way they frame the bartender, it was jarring. I think it's an artistic choice. I don't think it's a problem with the camera. Granted, there were budgetary constraints on this film, and that's understandable. But it would, like, the bartender is almost stuck up in the corner here. This is somebody's head, so I have to kind of look around their head to see his face. And this shot is there for like a minute at least, and it had me shaking my head. And there was a lot of that in this. You would have scenes where two people are on screen and they're talking, but the camera only focuses on one person. And like I said, I think it's an artistic choice, and what do I know, but it just didn't work well for me. It was very glaringly obvious, and it didn't feel natural. It felt awkward. You know, there's that scene I could think of in Heat between Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, where they do that back and forth, where one is talking and that's the person in your scene. That is really well done. But here, it's an entire conversation between two people. The other person is speaking, and the camera never really goes to the other person, and it just kept pulling me out because it felt awkward. It didn't come across natural. It didn't flow well. And this was my biggest issue with this movie. The dialogue in this film as well was a little bit stilted. Now, it is adapted from a novel, and from what I understand, it's very, very true to that novel. But the problem with that is, when you have a book, the way books are written, the way books are set up, it's very, very different from a screenplay. And you have to, sometimes, I understand about being true to a novel, and I really appreciate that, especially when I love a book. Anybody who's read a book and loved the book, and you go to see the movie, you want to see the book on film, you want to see it truly represented, but you have to give some type of leeway, because a movie and a book cannot be done in the exact same way. It just can't. And I think here the problem was that they stuck a little too closely to the book, and it affected the way the dialogue flowed in this movie. It would feel too short at times, you know, it would feel stilted. You could tell the actors, and then that's another thing too. Some of the actors here are really good, and some you can tell that it's new to them, and that's fine, you know, but the dialogue came across stilted. Mostly for me, I had a little issue with the portrayal of Rosalie. It did feel a bit, it felt a bit flat for me, you know. There was some good scenes with her, like when she confronts Shelley, but overall it was a bit wooden for me. Green Days by the River, I would still recommend seeing it. I really would. If you've read the book, it's very faithful to the book from what I understand. Overall, I give this film a 5.5 out of 10. Visually, this film is gorgeous to look at, and I quite enjoy the music as well. There are some of the actors, they stand out in their roles. They really steal the scenes they're in. Like I said, Mr. Gadari being my absolute favorite, as well as Palami. I love their scenes. And it's always good to support local theatre. Green Days by the River is showing in cinemas right now, and don't take my word for it. You go and see it. You may get a lot more out of it. Maybe this was your absolute favorite book in high school, and you really want to see it come to film. You're excited to. By all means, check it out. And I'm giving Green Days by the River a 5.5 out of 10. And that's going to be it for me, guys. So good morning, and until next time, bye bye.